Welcome to Talk Law Radio with attorney Todd Marquardt of the Marquardt Law Firm at marquardtlawfirm.com.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Welcome back to Talk Law Radio. I'm Todd Marquardt on the radio, on podcasts, on Facebook Live, and on YouTube. Go to YouTube and click subscribe, or find Talk Law Radio first. Look for the Lady Justice and the red, white, and blue logos and click subscribe. YouTube requires that we have 1,000 subscribers before we can stream live. You can help me by going to YouTube, searching for Talk Law Radio, and clicking subscribe. Thank you in advance. We've been talking about immigration and the question, with permission or without permission. Why is that such an important question, Juan?
I think it's a very important question coming from the legal operations, specifically because you need that question answered to know where the case is going to go to. I myself have been in the intake position of people calling in and saying, hey, I need help with this. And so, like most people, they don't know how to navigate the immigration.
They don't even know what to ask for, really. They just know they needed an attorney, right?
Exactly. They might have an idea of it, and that could start a whole conversation. But that's one of the most important questions, again, with when you're helping people, I guess, with immigration needs. Because again, it's gonna dictate what's gonna happen with this case, what forms you can work with, and what you shouldn't do. So it's very important to know where to start, at least.
So there's a lot of different programs that are all based on being here with permission, and then there's a lot of other legal stuff that you would have to do if you were not here with permission.
Exactly.
So we're going to focus today on all the programs with permission because there's enough to talk about for an hour, right? So Shannon, tell us...
we talk for an hour? Do we really? It always goes so fast, and I have such a good time.
Yeah, well, thank you for having a good time.
I didn't know it was an hour.
Yeah. So
That's intimidating now.
Give us one of your examples of why you ask that first question, with permission or without permission.
Most of the calls, if it's that very first point where, hey, is this an attorney's office? Can you help me? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is the first question I ask because you can either adjust status here within the United States, or you're going to have to leave the United States depending on how you entered the United States, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm rambling, but
no. So
a lot of people have come in on a tourist visa, and so that's considered with permission. That's the most common thing that I see is a tourist visa. Mm-hmm. It could be student visa, right, mm-hmm. or other types, but the most common one I get is that like a border crossing card. And that's going to kind of determine the path that your case is going to take, because if you entered without permission, then there's no way you're going to, I shouldn't say no way, but it's probably not going to happen for you that you're going to easily adjust your status within this country. You're going to return to your home country and have to have interviews, waivers. It's a completely different process. Mm-hmm. So it helps me determine which path you're going to be on. Right. And whether I even want to take that case, because the most common problem that I see is that people, for whatever reason, I mean, we could have a whole show on whatever is driving people, but if you entered without permission and then you were sent back and then you did it again, in my head, I see a big stop sign, a big dead end where you're really not going to have legal status here. But I can do you a kindness and I can explain the permanent bar to you so that you don't give $20,000 to the guy who says he used to work at ICE and can get you a green card. Mm-hmm. And, I can tell you the truth, for free, here's some free truth for you. Don't waste your money. Don't waste your time. You have the permanent bar. You're not going to get legal status here.
Can we talk about, I'm glad you mentioned that. Can we talk about the definition of the word visa?
Sure.
Is that the competitor to MasterCard? Juan?
Oh, well, a visa, to me at least, is I guess a document that shows that you have permission to enter the U.S., whether it be by you're gonna be either working here, visiting,
Going to school.
going to school, either becoming like a trainee. Let's say you're doing like an internship. I think that's to me kind of like a document that says that you have been authorized to enter the U.S.
Is that different from border crossing card? Shannon, you mentioned that.
Technically, I'm sure it is, but it would still be considered with permission that you had, if you entered on a border crossing card. As far as this, maze of laws.
Show the people the book.
Well, this is what I consider the immigration Bible. Yeah. And this is volume 1. So there's another corresponding one that is this big, that represents the whole book. It used to come in one book, but now it comes in, it's so big now that they have to do 2.
Well, that's one of the reasons I started Talk Law Radio, because God started with one rule. Don't eat from the fruit of that tree.
Right.
Then we had 10 commandments, and now we have local.
Oh, I love it so much.
Local laws, state laws, and federal laws that never stop.
It never stops. Every year it gets bigger. Every year you have to buy a new one, because every year it gets bigger and bigger. And I know the law that started. I know the corresponding one law that started this Bible. It was, there's too many Chinese people here.
Really?
Yes, it was a very racist-based, just some politicians looking around. That was the very first immigration law.
Do you remember what year that was?
I want to say 18-something, but I think it's
okay.
at the beginning of the book here.
Wow, that's interesting.
Is it?
We'll have to come back to that later.
Yeah.
Okay, Juan, let's talk about some specific programs. One of the programs is family-based. Tell us about that.
Of course, I think it's one of the most popular ones, definitely. It's definitely when either you, as a lawful permanent resident, which is people who are green card holders, and U.S. citizens want to petition their immediate family members. Now, there's some restrictions, there's some factors that do need to come in, of course, but typically you can, someone as a U.S. citizen or as a lawful permanent resident can petition their immediate members being going above, which is your parents, your siblings, your spouse, and even your children.
Okay. Yeah, I've seen that before, where a guy, a family friend, he married somebody from outside the U.S., and then after they were married, I don't know all the statuses, but then she brought her parents.
Yes.
And she wanted to take care of them here in the U.S.
That eventually can happen. Now, I'm actually going through petitioning my parents. They're from born and raised in Mexico, and they're pretty much going into retirement. And they said, you know what? I think we're gonna go to Laredo, Texas site, and I think we might need a petition.
Wow.
You might need to petition us. So that's
Great.
something that I'm going through.
Cool.
Actually.
I found it.
All right, tell us about it.
1882, the Immigration Act of 1882, the first federal immigration law. I'm sorry. Here we go. 1882, provided for the exclusion of persons from China. But I was wrong. There was one before that, which was 1875, provided for the exclusion of convicts and prostitutes, but no grounds for deportation.
Okay.
It's interesting, right?
Yeah, it sure is. Didn't know that. I'm sure that that might generate some calls right there.
Right? I wish someone would call. Yeah, I want to know what.
You can call right now at 210-308-8867, 210-308-8867 if you want to talk to us about what you think about immigration or the border. I know that'll make Shannon uncomfortable, but it might make for a good conversation.
Yeah, it would.
or you can text Todd at 210-538-4770, 210-538-4770. Okay, anything else you want to say about family-based programs?
I did want to tie it up to your first question. I guess the question that why we're here, I guess, which is the to be or not to be, the
permission
or not permission. It's really important that, at least in my opinion, that whenever people are wanting immigration needs, legal needs, when they're calling and they don't know where to start, to give them as much detail as you can. Sometimes people can get afraid on whether they get asked the question, are you here on permission or not? So, the from the legal side, much detail is appreciated because, we're here to help you. So, I think it's really important for that question to be answered in as much detail as you can, of course, so that, again, help us help you, pretty much. That's what I was trying to say.
Okay.
That's a good point. Yeah, that would be a scary question.
Right, because maybe if I'm not here with permission, maybe they're going to come pick me up right now.
Right.
Exactly.
Why should I trust you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. How about employment-based programs? What are some of those like?
So I'll tell you a little bit about what I saw in my experience. One of the most common ones, I guess, since the U.S. is between Canada and Mexico, is I guess the TM visa. So any Mexican nationals and Canadian nationals can pretty much apply for a work visa that needs to be tied up to a company that you're applying for. So this company can petition you for you to work for them, pretty much. There are several others that we can talk about, which are the EBs, the employment-based visas. There's 5 categories for this one, so it's recommended that you speak to an attorney to see which one you could fit in. Again, give as much detail as you can about your studies, about your background, about your profile, so that you can pretty much be petitioned by your company to obtain possibly a green card.
Okay. Shannon, you want to add anything to employment-based programs?
Well, I'm going to pretend somebody called in and said, but why would we need that? We have people here. So then it's true. Immigrants are taking American jobs. Why would you need a foreign worker to come do a job here that an American can do? That's
a good point. I mean, from what I've seen, it's sometimes people have looked.
I'm pretending to be the caller. And by the way, you are both fine young men.
Thank you.
Thank you for what you do.
Oh, you're being a polite caller.
Bless both of you. Bless Mark.
Thank you for that. Being a good example for those that want to call the show.
Yes.
I guess answering your question, from what I've seen, and it sounds made up, but sometimes people have looked here and they haven't been able to find the right candidate. So, not trying to be biased here, but it's it can happen. Sometimes you need to look somewhere else, a different country probably. Open up your range for application, and if that happens, then you have the right candidate. You just need to get them petitioned.
Yeah, I guess if there was no need, then if there's no demand, then there would be no supply.
Exactly.
Anyway, we got to take a break. We've been talking about immigration with permission or without permission with Shannon Roberta Salmon-Haas, the Mrs. Rogers of San Antonio, and Juan Molina. We got to take a break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
This has been Talk Law Radio with attorney Todd Marquardt, brought to you by the Marquardt Law Firm. You can learn more at marquardtlawfirm.com. And be sure to listen to the full Talk Law Radio show Saturday mornings at 11 on 9:30 a.m. The Answer.
Each week, attorney Todd Marquardt talks about the law. His mission with the Talk Law radio show and podcast is to help you discover your legal issue blind spots. In the beginning, God had one law. Don't eat from the fruit of that tree. Then came the 10 Commandments. Now we have federal, state, and municipal lawmakers that won't stop creating new laws. Laws that might impact you without you knowing it. Listen to the show and drop a line on Facebook or email host@talklawradio.com and let the host know what you think of the show, the topics you want to hear, and whether you want to be a guest.